Well, hello again. Charles Knapp. I'm back with another thrilling video, and this one is on the secret, and it's Barbacreep, and specifically we're going to talk about this artwork, the smaller cartoon, a little bit on the bigger cartoon, but there's quite a bit of information, so I didn't want to go. I'm trying to keep this under 20 minutes. We'll see how it works out. Might go a little long. So anyway, this is where we start with the backyard Barbacreep. And the way I like to start with this is to go through and try to figure out what the theme is. There's several themes. Some are more important than others. So what I do is I'll look at the drawing, the artwork, and without knowing anything, just looking at this, I thought, man, that looks like a mouse. And the other thing it's obvious is it's all silhouettes. So you start asking your questions, why a mouse? Why is it silhouette? And we'll get into some other whys here. And of course, you have to figure out what this is referring to and why we have this. Why the caption? And the way I go about it is I go through the actual wording, and I hope that's focused good enough, but we'll go through it. So anyway, I go through the wording, and spotter's tips is extremely important, and of course the caption. The spotter's tips, let me go ahead and read that because it's short and it's going to be very important here in a minute. The backyard Barbacreep is never far from half-baked franks composed of fly eggs, rodent hair, and earwig mandibles, nor from stinging ants, singing ants. He is often accompanied by raccoons, ravenous in-laws, and the occasional bear. Look for him in summer, leering over hedges and fences, hungrily sniffing the air for the scent of kerosene and singed human flesh. All right, now if you read through this, the whole thing, with that kind of information in mind, and also you're talking about backyard Barbacreep and red hot Texas tradition, you're starting to think food maybe. Okay, so food might be a theme. Maybe something really hot like jalapenos. And the only reason I stuck this in here is because when we were living in Texas, really quick short story, we were living in Texas, my son ate like a half a jar of jalapenos. I couldn't believe he did that. I mean, I can't hardly eat one or two, and I'm from Texas, or I grew up there. Anyway, my son paid for it later. He had quite the stomach ache, and so if you start thinking, okay, come and get it before it gets you, using English, not Texas speak of get. Well, if you come and get it and the food is bad, okay, all of this, you start reading through it, it's talking about maybe food. And who wants all this stuff in their food? This bad stuff over here. Fly eggs, rodent hair, and we'll get to the earwig mandibles in a minute. But, it's talking about bad food. So let's continue on. You see, you got to go where the clues lead you. It says a red hot Texas tradition. Well, what's a red hot Texas tradition? Well, if you're from Texas, you probably know about the Texas Longhorns. Well, they have a lot of traditions, and one of them is the burnt orange and white colors. And I'm not going to go through the history, it's too long, but the key word here is burnt. Barbecue, burnt. If you look at the larger cartoon, there's a chef, a cook, over a barbecue, and it looks like some things are burnt. We'll come to that, but also the hook 'em horns symbol and how that was developed is by a couple guys messing around like this, and they go, oh, this might work as a symbol. This was back in 1955, and they did it by shadow puppets. Okay, now we're starting to get some clues patching together. Anytime you see silhouettes in the back of the book, you need to be thinking shadow. Is this a shadow puzzle? Okay, so like I said, continue on with Texas, University of Texas, and their tradition. It has the Eyes of Texas. And if you've ever been subjected to an annoying song when you're an opposing team, you've heard this song many times. And you read through the lyrics, do not think you can escape them at night. And so think of that, but the eyes is extremely important in this puzzle. In many of the puzzles of Byron, look where the eyes are looking. And I've showed that in other videos, talked about it online. So that's what I did. So this lady here on the larger cartoon, she's looking straight over right here at this triangle. Okay, that's possibly a clue. This guy, he's looking to this mess right here. Now, I don't know many artists that would draw a fire and smoke like that. So there's something going on here. And while I'm looking at the art, I look at things that don't belong. This doesn't belong over here. And as you can see, it's a polygon of sorts, maybe a hexagon. And you've got these squares going on, and his ear is a polygon also. His ear is not round. Okay, so now we're starting to look at clues that might make sense, that might be meaningless. So we start patching them together. Let's go back to Spotter's tips. What did we say? The backyard Barbacreep is never far from all this nasty stuff, rodent hair, ear, wig, mandibles. Byron does this all the time. He takes words that have more than one meaning and he incorporates them into the puzzle. Here's an earwig. Who wants that in their food? Why did he pick that particular bug? Well, we know what a mandible is. It's a jawbone. We're talking about the ear right there. These things are active at night also, and it's in keeping with the verse that goes with the art. Well, look what we have. We have one of these. If you can't see that, I don't know. Don't ask me why you can't see that. And where is it? Right where his mandible is. And what's it pointing to? His hair. Okay, so we turn it sideways. Ear, wig. That ear has a wig. It's pointing right to it. Okay, well that may not make any sense right now, but let's just take note. And the ear is one of these shapes. Oh, it happens to be a hexagon. Where did we talk about that online? What did we talk about? Oh, look at this. And I'll show you why I did this in a minute. This is a palm tree, and it's not the palm tree, but it's next to a course. It's not at night, but you have the shadow of the palm tree. Now, I maintain that's our wig. You might think that's ridiculous, but just hold on. That's the wig. That's the shadow. Well, how can we get a shadow during the nighttime? We'll get to that. Well, actually, I put it all together right here. Our gem is in the shadow. Here's the shadow. Here's what's making the shadow. Here's our light source. There's a tennis court here, bright lights, the palm tree. Now, the palm tree's changed, obviously, in the last 40 years or whatever it's been. But that tree is going to cast a shadow right in over here, right next to this object. And I've talked about this in videos online as well. So, if you start putting these things together, you have a palm tree, and its shadow is being cast, and the gem is in that shadow. And it makes sense if you go through here, in darkness. Now, the moonlight in teardrops, again, Byron uses a word for more than one meaning. We talked about a teardrop being a navigational aid image on a navigational chart of a lighthouse. And where are we at? We're at Lighthouse Park, not far from the lighthouse. But let's take a look. Oh, I want to point out also these images are not what you normally find in nature. They have angles on them, and there's a square and a rectangle. So we're starting to keep these clues in line and match things up. Not just like this looks like that. They have to have meaning. Okay, so this is our palm tree, but not the palm tree. It's the only one I could get it close to the site, and it had the tall grass up above. This is a tall grass for sure. It's up there, and it's pretty tall. It's also tall grass down here. And your jewel's going to be in the shadow of a palm tree. And here is our light source. Here's our moon. There's a moon. Moonlight in the shape of a tear. It doesn't show it real well, but that's the shape of a teardrop. And also it says teardrops. In other words, 2 of them or more. Moonlight in teardrops. So we go back. Now we got something to go by, and we have to ask more questions on what's going on here. What about the mouse down here? Things like that. Some of the other wording. Okay, well, let's go back to the Longhorn traditions. And what do we find? Oh, there is our... Oh, wait, it's not a mouse. It's a squirrel. It's a white squirrel. That's a Longhorn tradition. And I'm not going to read it to you. You can read that on your own. Students go into class, they see that white squirrel or a white squirrel. Supposedly they're going to get an A on an exam. Well, good luck with that. Also, if you look up here, gone to Texas. Back in the 1800s, when somebody took off to Texas, they would write in chalk, GTT, on their cabin doors or fencing posts for gone to Texas. Well, I'm sure some of that chalk rubbed off or washed off a little bit. What does GTT turn into if the middle letter is an I? Get. Get. Come and get it before it gets you. So I bet that's a clue. I'm not 100%, but it's part of the Texas traditions, and it's right there in front of you. Why else would he use get unless he just didn't like the way us Texans talk all the time? You know, get this and get that or whatever. Anyway, I'm going to leave it right there for you to decide on that one. But the white, what I call a mouse, is actually a white squirrel. If anybody else can explain that in their theory, they got a good theory. Okay, continuing on. Another Texas tradition, lighting the tower. They light the tower up. They have a ceremony, all this. Started in 1937, or the tower was a symbol, and they went through, and so lighting the tower is like lighting the tower here. Although the tower is different, this is a lighthouse. So Byron picked a pretty good bunch of clues to put in here. Okay, but we're not done yet. How many do we have? Now, at first I counted these and I thought, well, this is baseball. Earwig, mandible, a baseball helmet. No. How many players are there? Well, if you counted them, there's 8. That's not a baseball team. It's not soccer. It's not football. Well, why is there 8? Another Texas tradition, particularly if you're far out in Texas and you have a small community, 8-man football. There's 8 players here for the Texas tradition of smaller football. It's smaller field, smaller players. Why? Why would that be in there? Who cares, right? Well, an 8-man football team is played on smaller fields with fewer players, smaller school. Smaller fields? Oh, guess what? Lighthouse Park is a small park. and it's on Salt Run. Remember salt in the verse? That's why there's 8 men on that, or 8 figures in that drawing, that artwork. And there's silhouettes. Don't forget, we're still talking a shadow puzzle from the lights right there. Now, go to the park. What do you find? You find this oak tree there. That's incredible. That has some bending branches. And there's a lot more bending branches. What else is at the park, Lighthouse Park? Well, here's the small, and you can come along. You can see here. I tried to find out if this salty paddle was there, and I don't think it was back in the day. And, well, might have been. And the yacht club, Sails Past by Night, I don't know that the yacht club was there, but it could have been there, and that would explain Sails Past by Night. Of course, sails passing by a lighthouse, they pass by night. So these clues are starting to add up. So I think we made a touchdown. Here's our goalpost or hook 'em horns or whatever. And we're over in this area of the park, and there's some tennis courts over there. I think there's actually one here and one across this here. Right in here, there's 2 tennis courts. And one of them's probably been redone, maybe both. They probably put them in the exact same spot. And we also look around at the park and we look for other things. What else is there? Well, there's picnic tables. There's a barbecue. Oh, wow, backyard Barbacreep. Barbecue. There's cars. Maybe that's a honking. Trying to honk, getting in and out of the parking lot. I don't know. So this looks a lot like our backyard Barbacreep, but again, I don't like that this looks like that without any context or meaning. So what else we got going on? Well, we talked about this, our barbecue grill where you cook your food, and of course, now the wording in the puzzle, again, is talking about food, and it shows a herd of silhouettes. Maybe they're running to come and get it, and then they're going to get sick because they ate the food off of here. I don't know. But you can see where the Barbacreep comes into play. And red hot, spicy foods. So coming to get your spicy food before it gets you in the gut. Makes you sick, gets you a gut ache. Makes you sick because of all the things that were in it. Any event. And here's just another shot showing the picnic tables. So we got to find the right area back here. Well, if you've watched some of the other things I posted online, you'll get there. This just shows here some matchups between the large picture, the large cartoon, the large cartoon, and the tree, the little outhouse. There's a little bathroom or something, outhouse, matches up. There's a picnic table. This lady and her kid are sitting down. Let me see if I can get a little closer here. They're sitting down at a picnic table. They're looking over here. She's looking over here at the triangle. He's looking at his arm. And of course you got your barbecue grill down below. Then I got thinking, well, what's he looking at? He's looking up at his ear. Again, another ear clue. And of course, in the ear, we found the polygon, hexagon, right there in his ear. And I've posted this before online, but let's go over it. Oh, and this is something I just found out recently, like last night I was looking at this. Look at the heads on these guys. They're not all the same. The one in the front doesn't want to give it away. Look at the ones in the back. This one's a polygon head. Who draws a head like that? You look at JJP's drawing, these are polygons here. There's an X over here. This is from a beehive, and that's part of another back of the book clue. It talks about beehives, beekeepers, And the reason they talk about it is because of the structure. And what do we find at our geodome that's on the park, at the playground, not far from the tennis court? The light or the tree we find are polygons. Now here's one down here. It looks like half of one. Here's a full one. Maybe they're in a picture, they're lined up 3 across, like these 3 are across. One may have more light on it than the others. This might be our tennis court. Here's our jewel in the shadow. Again, the jewel is in the shadow of the tennis court light of the palm tree. And here's a view from above. This is exactly what I'm talking about. We got a corner. We got our moonlight and teardrops providing the light at night. Palm tree casting a shadow right here where the X is located. Here's our playground equipment with the hexagons, or all those shapes. Here's our JJP art with the jewel in the shadow. It matches up with our verse. Tall grass, top of that palm tree, or on the grass, the shadow. I don't know many theories where this much information adds up. If you have one that has this much information, you need to get it out there. But I don't want you digging there for a couple of reasons. One is it's protected. You can't dig there. You can't even metal detect without a permit. If you get a permit, you get a permit, and you let me know, I'll put you on my team for this puzzle. In fact, if you get permit with or without digging, because we're going to go visit, I'll put you on my team and you can get some credit for this. A lot of credit. Be a teammate, team member. But just like in the days when gold mines were starting to develop, they had an area, and they said, this is mine, I'm staking a claim. They didn't own the area, but you couldn't dig in it. So this is my internet Casque mining claim. And if I have to flog you because you're doing something that is, number one, against the law, number two, is not very ethical, and you get in there and dig that up, you're going to have to tell somebody where you found it. Unless you're just going to, keep it to myself. But what's the purpose of the puzzle if you do that? Show your neighbors? In any event, don't dig without a permit. If you get a permit and you're digging my claim spot, just let me know ahead of time. That's all I'm asking. And I think that's all I got. So we'll cut it off here, and we'll find out how long this has been. I don't know. And thank you for watching.